Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is
Good
Judge
afternoon.
Moreno. It's
Yes.
now about 1 o'clock. I just wanted to check if we have our court reporter with us and whether you're ready to go on the record.
Yeah, I'm here and I'm ready to go on the record whenever the group is ready.
Okay, and I'll just state before we go on the record that if you need to interrupt to get any spellings of names or anything, please feel free to do so.
Okay, I do believe I have the majority of the people that are going to be presenting. However, if there's any names or whatnot, like I said, would you like me to do it at the end, or how would you like me to do it?
Whatever's easiest for you. It's possible that people may or may not drop off after they make their comments, so it's perhaps better to do it while folks are on the line, so probably contemporaneous with their statement. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, with that then, why don't we go on the record?
We're on the record.
Great, thank you. I call cases 22E0064 and 22G0065, proceedings on the motion of the Commission as to the rates, charges, rules, and regulations of Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Inc. for electric and gas service. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here today for a public statement hearing that was noticed on February 28, 2022. Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Inc., which I will refer to as Con Edison, filed amendments to its electric and gas tariff schedules on January 28, 2022, proposing to increase its annual electric and gas delivery revenues effective January 1st, 2023. Con Edison proposes to increase its electric delivery revenues by approximately $1.2 billion, which is a 17.6% increase in base delivery revenues, or an 11.2% increase in total revenues. And its natural gas delivery revenues, it proposes to increase by approximately $500 million, which is about a 28.1% increase in base delivery revenues, or an 18.2% increase in total revenues. Under New York State law, the Public Service Commission, which I will refer to as the Commission, must consider the utility's proposal and may adopt or reject it in whole or in part or modify it. We are holding this hearing so that you can provide your comments on these proposals for the Commission's consideration. My name is Ashley Moreno. I am an Administrative Law Judge for the Department of Public Service. With me today is Administrative Law Judge James A. Costello, also from the Department of Public Service, and together we are responsible for presiding over the hearings in these cases and the development of a complete record in these proceedings. The Public Service Commission will decide what Con Edison's terms and conditions of service will be. The Public Service Commission has 7 members, the chairperson, Rory Christian, and 6 commissioners. The 6 commissioners are Diane Berman, James Alisi, Tracy Edwards, John Howard, David Valesky, and John Maggiore. And we are fortunate today to have several of the commissioners with us on the line, and I believe we have all of them have joined us now. We have Chair of the Commission, Rory Christian, Commissioner Diane Berman, and Commissioner John Maggiore. And I'll just briefly stop and pause and ask each of the commissioners in turn whether they would like to address the participants today. Chair Christian?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, ALJ Moreno. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to participate in this hearing. These are very important topics that we're discussing, the future of rates and electric and gas service in the Con Ed service territory. I'm going to be in a listen-only mode, as I have been for the previous sessions that we've had. And I look forward to hearing your comments and your feedback and taking them into consideration as we deliberate what Con Ed has presented. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And Commissioner Berman?
Thank you. I echo the chair's comments, and I look forward to listening today. So thank you for having me.
Great, thanks very much for being with us. And John Majore, Commissioner Majore?
Yes, thank you. As my colleagues have said, I'm here to listen. I value these public statement hearings, and I am thankful for everybody who has shown up virtually to participate today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'll just take a moment to explain the process that we're going to follow today. As stated, the purpose of our hearing is to provide you with an opportunity to tell the Commission your thoughts on Con Edison's rate proposals. The statements that you make today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter joining us who will be preparing a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official record of this proceeding, or these proceedings rather, so that your comments can be considered by members of the Commission. When it's ready, the transcript will be available for view on the Department of Public Service website. So the hearing today is not an evidentiary hearing or a question and answer session, but really a forum to hear comments from you. This is not the only opportunity for you to make a comment. So if you did not pre-register to speak at today's hearing, but you would like your views included in the record, there are a variety of other ways that you can make your comment that were listed in the public notice for today's event. And if you're joining us electronically on the screen, you'll see the other ways to comment include by making your comments on the department's website, www.dps.ny.gov. Also by email, which you can do by contacting the secretary at secretary@dps.ny.gov, regular mail, or by the department's or by phone. Regardless of how the comments are submitted, they will be given equal consideration. Comments may be submitted and will be considered throughout the pendency of this proceeding. If you've registered to make a statement, we ask that you please summarize any lengthy written statements orally and submit the full written statement by mail or email. Because of the number of people who have registered to speak today, we ask that you try to stay within about 4 minutes to make your oral comments today. So with regards to calling people to speak, we have some people who are participating electronically and others who are registered and will be participating by phone. In either case, you should only have one audio input from one device, otherwise you may experience some problems with feedback. I will call the persons that have pre-registered one by one to speak. If someone is not available when I call them, I'll continue on with the next person and we'll come back to those people who were not available at the end. For telephone participants, when I call out your name, I will ask that you hit *3 on your phone so that we can recognize you and unmute your line. It might just take us a moment to locate you and unmute you, so please make sure that you wait until you hear a beep or you are notified that your line has been unmuted before you make your statement. And just a reminder again, if you've muted your own telephone, you'll have to unmute that as well. For people that have registered electronically, after I call your name, I will unmute your line, or we will unmute your line. You should hear a tone and see the microphone icon is no longer red. Please be reminded that if you, again, are using your own telephone line, that you'll have to unmute that as well. So we will start by calling on members of the public who have registered to speak, and then we will move to individuals who have registered to speak that are parties to this proceeding. As parties, you've got greater privileges and opportunities to build the record in these proceedings, and so consequently we'll ask you to summarize any lengthy comments and submit them in writing. Please speak slowly and clearly so that our court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. And when your line is unmuted, please state your name, and if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, the name of that organization. Once we can confirm that we can hear you, please proceed to make your comments. And I'll just apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. And so our first speaker this afternoon is Roy Silver, who I believe is a call-in participant today. If you are on the line, could you please press *3 so that we can identify you and unmute your line?
No raised hand, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker then will be Vincent Malfitano. And again, if you've called in, please press *3 so that we can recognize you and unmute your line. And Ms. Kylis, I don't see any hands raised. Is that your same understanding?
Yeah, I see no raised hand, Your Honor.
Okay. We will proceed then to our next speaker, Sarah Noda.
Sarah, your line has been unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, thank you. This is Sarah Noda, and I am a homeowner, and actually I own a home that has 2 rental units with it, and I am deeply concerned about these increases. As we all know, we recently experienced new increases, which some individuals have seen huge drastic increases in their cost and their bottom line for energy costs. And as we know, New York has some of the highest energy costs in the country. And to have another increase put onto homeowners is just causing a huge financial setback, especially given the climate that we've already been through with many people who have been struggling financially due to COVID. I hold deep concerns not only for myself and my family with my 3 young children, but also for, my 2 tenants that I have. It's just causing an undue financial stress to keep having all of these huge increases placed on these energy costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Catherine Heller. And if you've called in, if you could press *3 for us, please, so that we can recognize you. Okay, I don't see Ms. Heller. We will move on to Maria Villalobos. And if you've called in, if you could press *3 for us, please, so that we can unmute your line. Okay. Annabelle Dumad. And if you've called in, again, if you could press *3 so that we can recognize you and unmute your line. Luis Rodriguez. And if you've called in, if you could press *3. Okay. Next person we have registered is Karen Tucker. And I believe your line has now been unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My husband and I are retired teachers and we're living on our pensions. We spent a great deal of time planning and saving for our retirement and we're faring well. However, one thing we did not factor into our plan was the skyrocketing cost of our utilities. 8 years ago, when we noticed Con Edison delivery charges began rising, my husband and I invested in solar. So for 7 years, we didn't have a Con Ed bill. The amount of solar we generated covered the cost of our electric and our natural gas usage. Last year, we began to have a monthly Con Edison bill. This is due largely in part to the ridiculously high delivery fees that we are being charged by Con Ed. Last month, we consumed $17 worth of natural gas. The delivery charge for that natural gas was $107. Our electricity use was $37, and the delivery charge was $87. Our actual energy costs were $54, yet our Con Edison bill was $250. My friends and neighbors who do not have solar power are facing monthly Con Ed bills between $900 and $1,400. Con Edison is breaking the backs of the middle class, and they're being allowed to do so by continuously approving rate hikes that don't result in any benefit for the consumer. The worst part is, with any other service such as cable or cell phone companies, if customers are dissatisfied with service or pricing, we can go somewhere else, but there are no other options for us. Yes, we can choose our energy supplier, but we must use Con Edison for delivery. This is an unfair monopoly that allows Con Edison to charge customers whatever they choose. You're the body that can help, and it seems as though Con Edison gets whatever rate hikes they ask for, no matter what the consequences are for the consumer. So these rate hikes have affected my everyday life. In order to use less gas and keep utility costs down, I bake less. My husband and I take shorter showers. We don't use our gas dryer. I have clotheslines set up in my laundry room. In the evenings, our home is dark except for our kitchen. We watch movies on our laptops so we don't have to turn on our television. We unplug appliances we're not using. My husband and I bicker over turning lights off and running hot water. This is not a pleasant way to live, and if rates increase, it will only get worse. When my daughter recently came home from college on spring break, I had an anxiety attack as she washed and dried 4 loads of laundry, wondering how much this was going to cost me. And then I wondered, how is she going to be able to afford to live on her own? Between the high cost of rent, groceries, and gas, it will be a struggle already for a young college graduate just starting out. And then if you add in a monthly utility bill upwards of $300 a month, I don't know how she'll be able to make it. So I'm asking you, please help the middle class consumer and don't approve this rate hike. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Ann Korchak. Give us a moment to unmute your line. There it is.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Ann Korchak, and I apologize. I actually had a statement prepared, but I'm a small landlord and I had an emergency at our building. So now I am just going to do this on the fly. So we own, my husband's family, 2 small apartment buildings on the Upper West Side, 10 units in each building, old brownstones. And I think my experience is very common of other small landlords that hopefully you will hear from. I am also a member of a group called SPONY, the Small Property Owners of New York, and our membership is primarily small landlords like the building I described to you, and many 1 to 4 family owners as well. So we are the group of people that really struggled under the pandemic. Many of us, did not collect rent, from tenants that were impacted by COVID. The rental relief program that was set up was long delayed and flawed. And there are plenty of landlords throughout New York that are still have not yet collected any of that rental arrears. And, we look at Con Ed raising their rates as a way for them to be made whole for all the collection troubles that they faced during COVID. But, they had the advantage of being able to just raise their rates on all the other consumers and to make up that loss. And the small housing providers are not in a position to do that. We are providing the bulk of the affordable housing in New York. Those of us that have rent stabilized housing are not able to raise our rents to keep up with the cost of increasing expenses, and utilities is now added to to that burden. These higher utility bills are really a burden for the small housing providers. And it's just one more struggle that we're all facing. And I'm just going to beg you not to do this at this time until, the housing is kind of stabilized from the effects of the pandemic. This is not the appropriate time for Con Ed to be raising rates, particularly on the small housing providers that are attempting to, continue to be service providers in this really difficult time. So thanks again for your time, and I apologize for rambling a bit, but like I said, I had a prepared statement, and because of this emergency, I'm just speaking off the cuff. So thanks for your time. I appreciate your attention.
Of course. Thank you very much. And to the extent that you are interested in submitting your written statement, if you have one, you're more than welcome to do so as well.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sammy Nemir Olivares. And your line should be unmuted now.
Thank you.
And again, if you could just state your name and commence to make your statement.
My name is Sami Nemir Olivares. I'm a Bushwick resident in Brooklyn. I'm a district leader. I'm an assembly candidate, but I'm also a tenant. On February 3, I received my Con Edison bill for $483.61. It was triple of what I have been paying in the past, so I was in shock. I'm a young professional who has a job and can't pay this bill. Imagine our low-income neighbors in our community where 50% live under the line of poverty. And I can imagine what families, especially with children and seniors and unemployed people and the sick, are going through. So after 10 days, Con Edison emailed us saying that your bill may be higher than usual this month, even if you didn't use more energy than usual. That's mainly because the energy supply costs. But Con Edison had made record profits, with our neighbors are forced to choose between staying warm or braving this cold season. And once again, we're reminded that Con Edison rather distribute billions in dividends a year than improving this infrastructure. And the cost of this is being passed on us, the customers. And leading up to now, from the beginning of the pandemic, and the outrageous prices hikes, the utility debt has been mounting, and some are even threatening a class action lawsuit. So my community has experienced an increase by at least 25%, and some as high as 80%. As of August, nearly 1.2 million households and over 43,000 businesses in New York were 60 days or more, 2 months, behind this energy bill. So meanwhile, Con Edison is as profitable as ever, and its shareholders receive $1.18 billion in net income for 2020 and $1.35 billion in last year. This is caused by one thing, not gas, but by corporate greed. The last month, they announced that they will be increasing this dividend this quarter for the 46th consecutive year. And on top of that, it's now currently fighting to raise these bills. We're in a pandemic, and this is unsustainable. It should be criminal that people are paying for this basic need. And this is about keeping the homes of our children and our seniors warm and safe. It's about keeping food in our fridge. This is about medical devices for people that are to keep them alive. This is our hospitals, and this is about our communities' lives. So I'm fighting for public power because we need to take the power, the actual power, out of the corporations and put it back in the hands of the people by a government, a power system that is renewable and led by the government. Our Con Ed bills are too damn high, and we need public power by passing the Build Public Renewables Act bill to ensure that our power is not only renewable, but also a public good. This is about what kind of society we want to live in. One that provides life-saving services and life, or are we providing and managing profits for corporations? In conclusion, we strongly reject this rate hike and demand alternative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Janatul Ferdows Hippolyte. And if you've called in, if you could press *3 on your phone, please. Okay. We'll move to our next speaker, George Diakakis.
I'm here.
Great, we can hear you. Please proceed to make your comment.
Well, basically, the people before me have pretty much expressed their frustration with the way Con Ed is being run as a business. It would appear to me that their main moneymaker is a delivery fee, and that's getting out of hand. For example, last month, I live in Westchester, New York. I had a bill of about $1,200, of which more than 50% of that amount was for delivery charge. And I find that to be ridiculous. I know they have to build infrastructure. I know they have to maintain and put money aside just in case they get another Sandy or something like that. But the way they're doing their business is not really for the public interest. It seems more for the shareholders who, according to the previous gentleman, they keep increasing their dividends to. And I'm not a socialist or a communist, but I'm telling you that sometimes we might be better off having a state-owned utility company versus this quasi-private monopoly. And it's very disheartening when you get bills and over 50% of them is for so-called delivery charges. And this is something that the committee must look into and get a better understanding of the actual accounting taking place here. I have no problem with a company making a profit, but when it comes at this cost, you kind of wonder, why is a delivery fee so large compared to the energy cost? I think previously Karen Tucker made an excellent presentation of all the concerns that individuals, whether you're a senior citizen or someone just starting out in life after college, it's very difficult to make ends meet, especially given the economic climate that we have right now, where we're looking at $4 to $5 gasoline. We're looking at inflation rates that have not been this high in the past 40 years. So there's something that the committee must really seriously look into. And that basically is where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Our next speaker is Edward Gutman. Okay, I believe your line is now unmuted.
Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. My name is Edward Douglas Gutman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will summarize a longer statement I will send in. I have lived in New York for 32 years, New York City. So I've been a Con Edison customer for those 32 years, including 29 years of my current apartment on the Lower East Side, which is basically a studio apartment, not that big, very small. It used to be that I would have a gas heater, and it would cost like about $100 a month to heat my apartment in the winter. And I also had, at the time, had a gas meter in the apartment because it's an old apartment, a tenement apartment. I've had a lot of issues dealing with Con Edison over the years, but in the last 2 years especially, I've been receiving exorbitantly high bills, as well as threats to shut off my power when I didn't have the money or a job to pay it. At least twice in the past 2 years, those high bills were due to electronic and clerical error on the part of Con Edison, and I currently have a case to the commission about the most recent charges. Again, to summarize, in October 2020, there was a gas leak in the street, and Con Edison shut off the gas to the building, and so the landlord had to do some repairs to the pipes. My gas heater was pulled out of the apartment because it was an illegal gas heater. and I had to start using a 2-foot electronic space heater, which I'm actually still using because I don't have any gas heat anymore. So now I have this space heater. My electricity costs have rocketed to well above what I used to pay for gas. The space heater barely provides heat, but it uses an insane amount of electricity going by the charges. I currently have an $850 bill that is for the last 3 months of heat. And it's roughly about $250 a month. And I've actually been in touch with Con Edison about this. I actually paid $200 and set up a payment plan. And then I also addressed the money I was being charged for a gas maintenance fee, even though I haven't been using gas for 17 months. And so basically, I addressed that. I paid them some money. I set up a plan. My bill went, instead of going down from 750, it went up to 850 because they wanted me to repay a quote unquote low income credit that I didn't even know I was being given. The point is that Con Edison's rates are already ridiculously high, and no one can afford them, especially not people who are in less don't have very good financial position. As people have mentioned, they hold a monopoly on providing energy in New York. We have no other alternatives. I cannot afford to pay $200 a month to use this tiny space heater, which barely heats my apartment and is also fairly dangerous. And if I can't do that, I can't understand how anyone else who lives here can do so. Those with far less money, with families, with kids, which I don't have. And I don't know how anyone can pay these charges currently, let alone if they want to raise the charges. In conclusion, electricity should not be something only afforded to the wealthiest New Yorkers. It should be considered a basic human right. Others should having heat in the wintertime. Because it has a monopoly, Con Edison has been doing everything in its power to make it impossible for hardworking New Yorkers and those less fortunate to have these rights, to have heat in the winter and have electricity. They are essentially turning New York into a third world country for those who can't afford their skyrocketing energy prices and charges. They should not be allowed to continue this practice without being regulated more closely and sternly by the city and the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Navjo Kaur. And if you have joined us by phone, if you could press *3 on your phone, please, so that we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay. Move to the next speaker, Philip Tunis.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Please commence to make your statement, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been a residential customer and business customer, let me just clear my throat, of Con Ed for over 50 years. I've run an importing business for many, many decades, importing goods from countries all over the world. I recognize my business obligation to hedge everything, hedge the currency going up, hedge everything that I could so as to eliminate having to raise the cost of the products that I was selling by double digits. Obviously, Con Edison is a multi-billion-dollar sophisticated corporation. It was incumbent upon them to hedge the supply of electricity. The handwriting was on the wall. They knew that the cost of electricity was going to go up. To not hedge your expenses is negligent, and it is on them. My bills I'm 75 years old now. I have invasive cancer and a number of comorbidities. My bills have been running $1,300 a month. I don't care respectfully about their investment in green energy. Sometimes the sun doesn't shine, sometimes the wind doesn't blow. The cost of green energy is higher than the cost of regular fossil fuels. If they want to explore new sources of energy, that's on them. The Public Service Commission I have appealed to, and also closing Indian Point nuclear facility, it was obviously going to increase the cost of electricity. but they were of the opinion to do so. I am listed as being disabled on Con Edison's whatever it's called, recording. I need electricity to cool medicines that I have to take in order to stay alive. They have a procedure whereby if you're on that list, every time there's any weather event coming, they call your phone number that they insist on having and leave and voicemail messages that are at all times of the day and night. I asked to be removed from that list, and they arrogantly responded, they cannot do that. If I am one day late on paying them the $1,300 in full, I get warning notices that they are going to shut off my power supply. They have been arrogant beyond comprehension, uncooperative. I don't know what else to say other than that, as occurred in Long Island, so power supply should be taken over by the government. This is a monopoly that is being abusive, and they should not be allowed to continue in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Giselle Boyce. And if you have called in, if you could please press *3 on your phone so that we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay, we'll move on to Stephen Helper. And if you have called in, if you could please press *3 on your phone so that we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay, move on to Jonathan Goodwin. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3 so that we can identify you.
There is a raise
Hello,
hand
can you hear me?
there. I'm sorry.
Oh, very good.
Hello?
Yes, hi. Could you just state your
Hi.
name and then we can hear your comment, sir?
Yes, my name is Jonathan Goodwin. I am a resident of Brooklyn in Bushwick. I wanted to speak out against the rate hike and all pending proposals from Con involving liquefied natural gas, the plant in Astoria. Con Edison is, as has been brought up before, effectively a state-sanctioned monopoly. However, it is not governed as a utility when it is allowed to raise rates. I come from originally Indianapolis, Indiana. For those who aren't familiar, which I'm sure most of you, it's way out in the Midwest, and we run our power companies as utilities. They are private companies. They do have access to profits. However, they're tightly regulated by the state and local governments. And Indiana, when I grew up, was a coal-powered state. I never once saw an item on the bill for delivery charges. That makes zero sense to have that not bound up inside the price of energy creation and delivery that have that as a single price. To build up this extra unit on the bill by which they can widely price discriminate against New Yorkers, which is all of us. We need energy to live in this civilization, for medicines, for entertainment, for warmth and coolness, and everything in our lives, to work, to play, for businesses to operate. We need power. We need electricity. So Con Edison can effectively price gouge us as much as they can to the full extent that they will. It's just simple economics that they can do that. I think this rate hike is unreasonable for the following reasons. They're using it to build liquefied natural gas. Regardless of whether you believe in solar and wind, there are plenty of opportunities to build these kinds of projects across the state of New York that should satisfy our energy needs. There are plenty of opportunities to invest in heat pumps inside buildings that can also help manage our heating and cooling without significantly raising our costs. And it can essentially create energy independence at the building level to help free it from the grid and lower its overall operating costs. And finally, we are not investing as a state in the proper levels of nuclear fission power provision. We're not investing in the new technologies. I think it's fifth or sixth generation of nuclear reactors that, whether you believe in nuclear or not, we have found ways to minimize the waste and essentially have many fridges that complete nuclear reactions that can power entire neighborhoods, could power an entire college campus of 50,000 people with barely a whisper. And so that is really, that's the direction that Con Ed should be going, rather than continuing to subject us to the volatility of natural gas, which in the current geopolitical crisis of Russia versus Ukraine, the Ukrainian invasion there, it's clear that natural gas, or fracked gas, as it were, as it most often is here in this country, is a vulnerable commodity that we can no longer afford to rely on. Building out more infrastructure for this outmoded method of energy provision is ludicrous. And I, as a taxpayer, I, as a ratepayer, want none of it. I've already suffered from National Grid exploiting its monopoly power to build useless and wasteful pipeline projects and new plants that only degrade the environmental and health integrity of my neighborhood, and further raise our rates for pollution-enabling energy methodologies. This cannot be allowed to happen. It is your job as a publicly appointed commission to serve the public interest, not a corporate interest. I would speak out in favor of the ideals of public power. In this case, it's clear that a company that runs what is known as a natural monopoly, you can't really compete on power like this, even because of the expenses involved. We need a state-run entity. Do not approve this rate hike. Do not approve further natural gas or fracked gas projects from Con Edison. Do not approve anything that enables further carbon emissions, increases in rates, and vulnerability to volatility, and unreasonable to accept this project from Con Ed and this rate hike. And I hope that you will do your due diligence. We only have this one opportunity to make our voice heard in a public way. We cannot vote out the commissioners of this commission, and we cannot vote on the rate hikes that Con Ed provides. We are simply forced to pay them. And you are hearing from hardworking New Yorkers that have given their lives in public service that they are forced to drastically sacrifice their condition of life, their quality of life, just to make ends meet. And that cannot be allowed to happen. Thank you for this time.
Thank you very much. And if I could just ask you, please, to hit *3 again on your phone, Mr. Goodwin. That'll help us locate our next caller. Thank you. Our next speaker is Donnie Smith. And if you have called in, if you could press *3, please, so that we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay. We'll move on then to our next speaker, John Rath. And your line should be unmuted now.
Good afternoon, Judge Moreno.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, could I ask, if for some reason we're hearing you very faintly, are you able to speak up a little bit?
I can. Is this any better?
It is. Thank you.
Oh, good afternoon, Judge Moreno and commissioners. My name is John Rath. I'm Director of Operations for the New York Geothermal Energy Organization, otherwise known as New York GEO. And my message to you is simple. There are cost-effective, viable, and affordable alternatives to burning methane for heating of space and hot water. Geothermal heat pumps are one of those alternative technologies. The use of this and other technologies in other countries, states, cities, and facilities have proven the viability and affordability on both large and small scales. In New York GEO's opinion, Such space and water heating alternatives need to take a significantly larger role in this rate case, whether it be in expanding equitable rates for electrification, accelerating depreciation to avoid stranded assets, or offering more accurate and effective useful life calculations for the equipment, all of which will positively impact customer rates and lower the amount of methane that we burn. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker will be Lori Wheelock. Okay, I believe your line is unmuted now.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Christian, Commissioners Berman, Maggiore, and Administrative Law Judges Moreno and Costello. My name is Lori Wheelock, and I'm the Deputy Director and Counsel for the Public Utility Law Project. We go by PULP. We're a 40-year-old nonprofit with the mission of educating, advocating, and litigating on behalf of New York's low-income utility customers. We thank the department for the opportunity to testify today in relation to Con Ed's electric and gas rate cases. We are an active party in both cases, and we will be filing expert testimony. We have several concerns that we want to address in today's hearing that will be expanded in our written testimony. To begin, we want to acknowledge how Con Ed's customers are doing financially. The company's own collections activities report show that as of February 2022, close to 403,000 customers are behind on their bills by 60 days or more, for a total of $840 million. Every single day, PULP's direct services team hears from Con Ed customers struggling to pay their bills, and our call volume has skyrocketed during the recent bill surge. When we've been working through people's Con Ed issues, everything from directing them to apply for HEAP to the regular reassistance programs and negotiating payment agreements with the company, we're also hearing about all the other financial issues that they're facing. We do our best to direct them to local resources, but in the 2 months alone, we've directed people on how to apply for SNAP and where their local food pantries are, to how to apply for unemployment benefits, where they can find labor law attorneys, domestic violence shelters, mortgage foreclosure prevention, and housing attorneys. I share this because people are struggling and making daily choices relating to what bills they can pay and when. If anything, Con Ed should be finding ways to do more with less, just as New Yorkers across their service territory find themselves having to do on a daily basis. When it comes to the size of the revenue requirement that the company has filed, it's massive. Con Ed is seeking approximately $1.7 billion in increased charges, which is an 18% increase in electric rates and 28% increase in gas delivery rates. For perspective, back in 2016, when the company filed their rate case, they were asking for an increase of $636 million. Then in 2019, when they filed, they asked for $695 million in increases. Now in 2022, they're seeking close to $1.7 billion. With each rate case, Con Ed is seeking more and more, and this historically huge ask is almost 3 times the size of what they asked for in 2016. When you look at the return on equity, or the ROE, Con Ed already has an 8.8% ROE from 2019. Now they're asking for 10%. PULP is concerned that they may actually end up getting this. Their subsidiary, Orange and Rockland, reached a 9.2% ROE in the joint proposal that will be going before the commission soon. The company will argue that they need this, but PULP will continue to argue that they don't. When it comes to late fees, which is a side note, PULP is concerned because recently the department and the commission awarded a late fee for year 1 of the COVID-19 pandemic. We find this approval contrary to the plain language of the Parker-Moseley Moratorium Act, which was Chapter 108 and 126 of 2020. The Parker-Moseley Act and later Parker-Richardson Act created a protective moratorium against shutoffs for 2020 and 2021, but it also prohibited the collection of late fees by utilities during the moratorium. Again, another protection to help people through the pandemic. Despite that, Con Ed petitioned for and received approval for the right to recover more than $50 million in late fees. PULP will be arguing that they cannot and should not receive this. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify here today, and we will be submitting written comments in the case.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the list of pre-registered speakers that I have here. As I mentioned earlier, what I will do is go through the list of persons who had registered who were not previously available. And again, if you have called in, if you could please press *3 so that we can recognize you, that would be much appreciated. We'll start with Roy Silver. And if you've called in, please press *3. It looks like we have a call-in user number 13.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, your line's been unmuted. Hello? We may have lost you. We can no longer hear you. If you've muted your line, please unmute it.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Could you please give us your name and make your statement?
Sure. My name is Vincent Malfitano. Do you need my address or no?
No, thank you. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, look, my testimony is pretty simple. I'm in my 70s. I'm on a pension and Social Security. I live in a small home in Westchester County that I've owned for 41 years. Con Ed published in the newspaper about a month or so ago their proposed rates. I'm just referencing that to you because there's obviously some sort of a miscommunication. In the public realm, they've said that their gas rates will go up about 18, maybe 20-something%. I just want to point something out. In the month of January to February, we had that cold snap. I used 369 therms for my small house, and my bill was $785 under the present structure. Okay, in the newspaper, New York Post published February 25th, 2022, Con Ed proposes its rates, and I'm looking down the list, and it says for 300 therms, the present bill would be $727.09. Well, I used 769, so yes, my bill was a little higher. I wonder if you have any idea what they are saying my bill for that same amount of heat usage will be as of January 1st, 2023. It'll be a 60% increase because according to the newspaper, Con Ed's own publication in the paper, it says for 300 therms as of January 1st, 2023, it'll be $1,175.72. That's a $400 increase. Now, I can do simple math. A $400 increase of a $727 basis is nearly a 60% increase in charge. So why doesn't the PSC have Con Ed republish this crap and actually put out some information that makes sense? Because the bottom line is we're being conned here. Now, my heart goes out to Con Ed in some ways because our Democratic friends in Albany who are out of their minds have shut down Indian Point, stopped the new pipeline of gas coming into Westchester County, and prohibited all fracking to get lower gas in our area. But our Democratic friends are running like hell to make sure we blame Con Ed for this big price increase. Well, Biden has more blame to get, but let's leave him out of the conversation. But the bottom line I'd like to tell you nice folks at the PSC is I've never called anybody in my life. And I took the time out today before I got to go pick up my daughter at school to tell you the PSC is going to grant an increase. The Democrats will claim victory, and we're all supposed to vote for these idiots again. Not happening. A 0% increase is what is warranted here, and 0 votes for Democrats in the next coming election. I hope everybody's hearing me because those are the guys that got you screwed. Okay? So look, have Con Ed publish correct information from now on. Can you do that for me, ma'am or sir?
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. And if I could ask you, sir, to please press *3 again on your phone, I would appreciate it so we can identify our next call-in speaker. And continuing down our list
Your Honor,
are...
I believe he hung up. I think there is a raised hand.
Oh, okay. Could you unmute the line? Hello?
No, I think that was me by mistake, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comment, sir.
Okay, well.
Okay. And our next speaker is Catherine Heller. And if you've called in, if you could please press *3 on your phone. Okay. Maria Villalobos. Annabelle Dumont. Luis Rodriguez. Janatul Ferdos Hippolyte. Navjot Kaur. Giselle Boyce. Stephen Helper. And Donnie Smith. And I'll just try one more time, Roy Silver. And if you've called in, please press *3 so that we could recognize you and unmute your line. Okay, and I am not seeing any hands raised in response to those names. What I will do next, if we could please proceed to the next slide for a moment, is open it up. We do have a number of other folks who are on the line who have either joined us electronically or by phone. If there is any member of the public who is not pre-registered but would like to make a statement this afternoon, we would like to hear from you. If you are participating electronically, you could use the raised hand function so that we can identify you and unmute your line. Or if you've called in and would like to make a statement, you can press *3 on your phone so that we can unmute your line and hear your comment. And Mr. White, I don't see any raised hands. Is that correct?
Sorry, Your Honor, I was answering for Sangeeta earlier. She is the host. I don't see any raised hands. So oh, there's a raised hand. Joseph Golai.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, your line has been unmuted.
How you doing? This is
Good, thank you.
Lucia. How you doing? I've been a resident of Astoria, Queens for 40 years of my life. And I'm a engineer by trade for HVAC, so, mechanical plumbing and electrical. So I have knowledge of rates and things of that nature. I also have a unique perspective because I have a house upstate, that a 4-bedroom house, 2 floors and a basement. As it turns out, the house that's upstate, which I had to live in during COVID times because it wasn't that safe, at least for me, feeling safe in the city, I was living there full time for 2 years. 2 years living there, like I said, a 4-bedroom house cost less than my apartment, even when I was not living in there. My apartment in Astoria is only a one-bedroom apartment. I find it very hard to believe that a one-bedroom apartment where I don't pay for the heating personally or anything else, and it's one bedroom, it's not like I have a lot of equipment in there, cost more than a four-bedroom house that is four times the size and have to pay for the heating and things of that nature with the electricity. So it's unbelievable to me how that's possible. And for the last 3 or 4 years, my electricity bill has progressively been getting larger and larger, and I have not been changing or modifying my usage. My parents live with me. They're all elderly, and you know, they when they're home, they need to watch TV. It is one of the few forms of entertainment they have, and you know, I really don't understand how these charges can seem to be getting higher and higher, and disproportionately so, as I've been hearing from the rest of the people who are speaking today. It's disheartening and it's saddening to hear how everybody is struggling to make these payments, and we don't actually see where the money is going. If there was an improvement to our service, or if there was uh, some benefit from these rate increases, I'm sure there would be more people willing to do it. But quite honestly, I think the service is getting worse. Charges more expensive for degraded service and not great customer support. So that's my take on the matter. I'm glad that we're at least allowed to talk about it, and I thank you for your time.
Is there any chance I could get the spelling for your last name, please, Joseph?
Sure, it's G as in goat, O as in ostrich, L as in lizard, J as in James, and A as in apple.
Thank you.
Golja. Yep.
And can I just confirm the spelling of your first name is Josip?
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comment.
Mhm.
And our next speaker looks like a call-in. Oops. I no longer see a hand raised for our call-in speaker. Again, if anyone on the line would like to make a statement today, you can please use the raised hand function if you've joined us electronically, or if you are joining by phone, you can press *3, and that will allow us to recognize you and unmute your line. I see we have a call-in user 1. Oh, I apologize.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hello?
Hello there. We can
Hello?
hear. Hi, we can hear you now. Would you like to make a statement this afternoon?
Yes, please.
If you could just give us your name and then go ahead and make your statement.
Supreme Simpson.
Okay.
Okay, can I speak now?
Yes, please go right ahead.
Yes, I live in a small house in Dobbs Ferry in Westchester, and I was looking at my bills. I'm an elderly person. My daughter lives with me, but I wanted to call because from what I see of the proposed new bill, my bill will go up about $350 for the gas for my little house. My friends tell me to move to Florida. I may have to. I try to figure all this out. My daughter, who's not here, looked at the bill and was telling me about the gas we use, the kind of how much it is. And our bill last month for the gas service was $690. That's before all of this new increase. And my daughter looked in the newspaper when they had these numbers and told me that the gas bill will go to $1,100. And I said, how can that be? I thought I saw on the television that the Consolidated Edison was asking for you people to approve a much smaller percent of increase. That seems to me to not be correct. So who's lying here? Or is Con Ed allowed to tell people one thing, but then have you guys do something else? This makes no sense to me. I can't afford, and that's for just 1 month. That would be for 1 month. I'm on a small pension, and and I can't stay here anymore. This is not possible. Who are these ridiculous people that make such laws that allow such things to happen with someone who's worked and lived their life and buried their family in this community now must leave? I must leave my husband's grave. This is not right. I can't stay in my own house. My daughter tells me that these laws that my representative, I should complain to him because he closed this power plant, whatever it was, and seems to have no interest in helping get the gas price down. This is just not right. It's not right, ma'am. I have to leave my home. I can't afford this anymore. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask.
Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. I was looking to see if I could have your spelling, please, for your name, for the record.
Yes, Supreme. Supreme. Simpson. Simpson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I'll just ask again if there's any other members of the public who are on the line who would like to participate and make a comment today. If you've joined us electronically, you can use the raised hand function, or if you've called in this afternoon, you can press *3 on your telephone, which will allow us to recognize you and unmute your line. Ms. Kylis, I don't see any additional hands raised. Is that your same understanding?
No raised hand, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well then that will conclude our hearing for today. I just want to remind members of the public that you may submit public comments throughout these proceedings by the other means that we described earlier, and in the notice of the public statement hearing that was issued on February 28th, 2022. In addition to this afternoon's hearing, we will be holding additional public statement hearings this evening starting at 5 o'clock and on Thursday, March 31st at 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Judge Costello and I wish to thank all of the commenters and folks who have joined us this afternoon for their participation. We also want to thank Chair Christian and Commissioners Berman and Maggiore for being present, as well as our Consumer Services Office for administering this session and our court reporter. And just before we conclude, if you could advance to the next slide, please. I know that we've heard from a few folks this afternoon with issues perhaps relating to their bills. And so I just wanted to put up the slide for your information. To the extent that you do need assistance, you can reach out to the Department of Public Service Consumer Assistance line. There's a helpline that you can use to make complaints or inquiries. It's 1-800-342-3377. And there are additional resources also available on the department's website, which is www.dps.ny.gov. So again, we'd like to thank everyone for their participation this afternoon, and have yourselves a good afternoon. And with that, our hearing is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.